Fifth grade, happy Wednesday. So today we're going to talk about is the Constitution. You looked at a little bit of it yesterday on your own. Hope you learned a few things, but today I really wanted to talk about it more in depth, exactly what's inside of the Constitution. Okay. So we're going to start here on slide number 2. Okay, just a few very basic things about the Constitution. Okay, so here's some text box. Forgot to put those there. All right, so the Constitution is incredibly important, not only because it's important for our history, it's also important because we use these exact same rules and that we use this exact same document today to see how we run things in our country. Okay, so pretty crazy. All right, so start here. The Constitution was written in 1789. Okay, so if you remember, we declared independence from Britain in 1776. That's when we wrote the Declaration of Independence. The Constitution was written about 13 years later. And remember that the Constitution was kind of a makeup for what happened during the Articles of Confederation, because that was kind of a mistake. That wasn't very good. They needed to fix their mistakes. Okay. So, therefore, it is how many years old? So let's go to a calculator here. Okay, it is 2000. It is 21 minus 1789. That means that this document right here is 232 years old. Okay, that's crazy, especially because we still use it today. 232 years old. All right. A few things that happened back in 1789. All right. Slavery was still around. It was still allowed in the new United States of America. Okay. We had never been to space before. Cars were not invented yet. Planes were not invented yet. Right. There were a lot of countries that were not even around yet. They had not been created yet. So 232 years old, that's pretty crazy, right? To have the same Constitution since then. That's a lot, right? Okay, there are 7 articles in this Constitution. They call them articles. It's kind of like, you could even just call them like paragraphs or chapters. I don't know why they were so set on saying articles, because we had the Articles of Confederation as well. I don't know why they kept on saying articles, but that was their go-to. They really wanted to have articles, apparently. Okay. All right. So Articles 1 through 3, these are kind of the most important ones for us. They're the ones that we, why our United States government looks the way it does is because of Articles 1 through 3. Okay. So we'll talk about those 3 articles and then kind of how they work together. Okay. So Article number 1 is the legislative branch. Okay, the legislative branch. And so what that does, makes war, okay, but also creates laws. Obviously very important. The legislative branch, it's a group of people. They come together. They're the ones who are able to declare war on different countries. They're also the ones who are able to create new laws. If they think that something is, wrong or incorrect and they need to change something, then this is the group of people who do that, okay? The legislative branch. So Article number 1, set up the legislative branch, okay? We call the legislative branch, we call them the Senate and the House of Representatives, okay? So we're going to go to Google here. We're going to look up a picture of Congress, okay? So the legislative branch we call Congress. So look up an image here. Here's the Congress building. So we're going to take a picture of the Congress building, whatever picture you want for Congress. Put it in the square here. Congress. That is the legislative branch. Okay, they're the ones who make laws in our country. They declare war, and they're still obviously around today. They still work every single day. They're in the news, right? They're still trying to pass laws right now, right? Looks like right now Congress is trying to pass some COVID-19 hate crime to Joe Biden. They're trying to create that law. Okay. So that is the legislative branch. All right. And then next what we have is the the executive branch. That was set up in Article 2. Okay? Article 2. Right. So, who is that? Pretty easy. That's the president. Whoever the president is at the time, they're the head of the executive branch. Okay. So they, really what they do is they approve law. So really the final say, so it has to, once everybody agrees in the legislative branch that there should be a new law, then it goes to the president, and the president's job is to approve it or deny it. All right. President does a lot more than that, right? He's kind of, he or she, depending on who the president is kind of the face of the United States, right? But that's the executive branch. The president is in charge of the executive branch. Okay. That also includes the vice president, people who work for the president, and all that. Right, where we are going to find the executive branch, pretty easy. We're going to find it on the White House, at the White House. Okay. Right, so here's the White House. Lots of stuff here. It's like a lot of stuff with, here's what it looks like. Kind of cool. It's a Lego set. You can look at the White House in Legos. You can see Joe Biden there on Inauguration Day. There's been a lot of presidents, obviously, that have lived at the White House. Okay, I'll take this picture. It's a little gloomy, but that's all right. That'll do. Okay, so executive branch in the White House. There you go. Okay, article number 3, the judicial branch. Okay. So the judicial branch, they decide if laws are correct or if they're broken, right? So the judicial branch, they decide if people are following the laws, right? If something is happening in the country that is unlawful, then that is their job to step in and decide, okay? So the judicial branch, the people that we are looking for here is we are looking for the Supreme Court. Okay, here's the Supreme Court. This is also in Washington, D.C. You can go and see it. Here are the current 9 Supreme Court judges. Okay, there's always 9, no matter what, unless they might want to change that. But since the very beginning of our country, there's been 9. Okay, these are the 9 people that decide the laws of our country, to decide if they are fair, if they're chosen correctly, if anybody is breaking them. That's what they do. So I'm going to take this picture. Take this one. Kind of shows you how big it is. It's a pretty big building. Right. So these 3 buildings here, these are all in Washington, D.C. So we have the Congress building, the White House, and the Supreme Court. Okay. So we have the legislative branch, executive branch, judicial branch. When you add all these up together, they make up our government. But they also, what's more important, they make sure that none are too powerful. All right, so they make up our government for sure, right? They are the 3 kind of departments, you could call them, of our government. But they also make sure that none are too powerful, right? If all of a sudden we got a president in the executive branch who was going crazy and doing some ridiculous things, then there would be the legislative branch and the judicial branch that can try to keep him or her in line and make sure that they're not doing damage to our country. If the legislative branch all of a sudden wanted to create a bunch of crazy, terrible laws, they can try to create them, but the president can approve them, can say like, okay, these are good laws or bad, and then the judicial branch are able to decide if laws are correct, and they can get rid of them too. And so they kind of look after each other to make sure that nobody is doing anything that is, against the rules. But also, sometimes it can give off the kind of appearance that nothing happens in government because they're all just kind of stopping each other from doing what they want to do. So there's kind of some good things and some bad things. All right, I'm going to move on. If you need to pause, you can pause here. Here we go, slide number 4. Okay, so the rest of the articles of the Constitution. Okay, so, there are these other articles here. They are important. They're important. I don't want to say that they're not important, but these ones we don't really think about as much. They're kind of more very basic things. Okay. So first here, number four, how states are to get along with each other. Okay. All right. So it's pretty much saying what happens when there's a war, and that the United States is in. How states have to help each other. How states, like, if they want to fight each other, it's going to have to take a lot of stuff. They're going to have to have every branch of government, all three of them, 1, 2, 3, be able to approve that they can fight each other. It was a whole thing about how states are to get along with each other. Okay. All right, Article 5, very important, how to change or add to the Constitution. We're going to talk about that in the next couple of days. Article number 5 is the reason why we still have the Constitution today. If this was not in here, we would have had to have gotten rid of it a long time ago. Okay, we've had to change things and add to things a lot, honestly. And one of the reasons why is because we talked about how back in 1789, the world was way different, right? There's a lot of laws that we had to pass because things in 1789 were just so different. It was so long ago, right? So Article 5 is very important, how to change or add to the Constitution. That's what it said there. It kind of said the process to do that. Number 6 says the Constitution is the law of the country, saying, hey, you know what? If you don't like the Constitution and you all approve it, guess what? Tough. That is the law of the country. And then Article number 7, how to approve the Constitution. Okay, so our founding fathers put this out there. They said, here's this document called the Constitution. The Articles of Confederation did not work. Let's try this. Okay, if you like it, here's how we are going to approve it and make sure that it is truly the law of our country. Okay, I believe it was 9 out of the 13 states had to agree to it. And so those other 4 states that didn't agree to it, stinks, right? But I do think that every state ended up agreeing to the Constitution. And so that is why now it is our the law of our country, right? Because of Article 7, how to approve it. Right. Last thing here. So if you need to pause here, you can. We're going to move down here to number 5. Okay. So Article 5 here in the Constitution, how to change or add to the Constitution. Okay. We call these things amendments. All right. So amendments to the Constitution, things that had to add on or change about what was going on in the Constitution. Okay. So what I want you to do today, last thing, is I want you to click on these 2 links here. So the first 10 amendments of the Constitution, the first 10 additions, are called the Bill of Rights. We're going to talk about the Bill of Rights tomorrow, and maybe not so much tomorrow, a little bit tomorrow, but also more next week. But the Bill of Rights is super important. It pretty much talks about all of the rights that you have. That's why it's called the Bill of Rights as a human being in the United States of America. Okay. After the first 10, we don't call them the Bill of Rights anymore. They're just amendments. The first 10 were all created at the same time, called the Bill of Rights, and then we kind of had to create some other ones a little bit later. So I click on this link here just to show you, kind of get you an idea of the latest one. Okay, so the last one here was 1992, was the last one, the 27th Amendment that we passed. Okay. States with salary changes cannot take effect until the beginning of the next session of Congress. Not a huge deal, right? Not a huge deal. Sounds pretty small, but still important and still change the Constitution. Okay. Some of these are very important, right? Like if you look here at 1971, set the national voting age at 18. And so once you turn 18, then you can vote. 1971, that's when they decided that. Okay. 1951. This is when they limited the president to a maximum of 2 terms or 10 years. Okay, so 2 terms, that's why presidents now, you see them have 2 terms, 8 years. Sometimes it can get to 10, and that's just because if a president dies or, has to retire or something early. But so some of these are very, very important, okay? So what I want you to do is I want you to tell me if there's one here that perhaps you have heard about before in either the Bill of Rights or the other amendments, okay? Just one that you've maybe heard about. I want to see what you have because I want to see if you're a little bit familiar with those things. But yeah, that's it for today. Constitution Day number 2. Any questions, ask Miss V.